Welcome to the Innovation Ecosystem Podcast. We interview remarkable and thought-provoking guests about innovation, leadership, and change in the world of business. Whether you're an executive or an entrepreneur, our objective is to help you and your organization create an entrepreneurial culture, become more innovative, and better able to respond to change. Each week, we'll deconstruct world-class performance from the arenas of business, academia, science, and sports. Each week, you can expect key insights, fresh perspectives, and proven tools you can use straight away to make you more successful professionally and personally. With your hosts, Mark Bidwell and Roddy Miller.
So with me today is Gerard Adams, a fascinating guy who's already achieved a huge amount of commercial success, and he's only just turned 30. He's known in the media as the voice of Generation Y, which makes him particularly worthwhile listening to, given the importance of millennials for employers and organizations trying to attract and retain them in their companies, as well as for innovators developing products and services to meet the needs of today's and tomorrow's customers. So as well as actually listening to the voice of the millennials, you're also going to hear from Gerard about why entrepreneurial behaviors and mindsets are equally important, whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you're working in a large organization. He describes how he developed and built out the culture of Elite Daily and some of the emotional challenges associated with selling this business to the Daily Mail for $50 million. And also he discusses the wake-up call that he got from Tony Robbins, who looked him in the eye and said to him that success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And this catalyzed Gerard to take a step back and launch him onto his latest wave of entrepreneurial ventures, which he'll discuss in some detail and which I thoroughly recommend you having a look at. The details are in the show notes. I think you're going to enjoy this.
So welcome to the show. With me today is Gerard Adams, co-founder of the Elite Daily, the #1 news platform for Generation Y, who's an experienced angel investor, millennial thought leader, and social entrepreneur. So welcome to the show, Gerard.
Thanks for having me, Mark. Pleasure.
So how do you get started as an entrepreneur, Gerard?
Well, it's funny. I never even knew what the word entrepreneur meant when I became an entrepreneur, to be honest with you. Growing up, I always was somebody who, I like to say, was a young hustler. I had this hustler mentality. I had to see both my parents work 7 days a week, and they didn't hand me anything, so I had to go and earn everything on my own. I even just, had to grow up pretty fast, and did a lot of sold T-shirts in high school, and then created car parts, and I was, just doing different side hustles throughout my life, and I was just always interested in the internet. And then when I wasn't really the smartest kid in school. I was more of a street smart person. I was also very charismatic. I was good with people. Mm-hmm. I was able to build a lot of relationships, understand people's strengths, weaknesses, and I was taught at a very young age to be a leader by my father, not to be a follower. So I very much kind of always rallied people up and got people together.
And what did he do, Gerard, to teach you? When you say he taught you, did he specifically sit down and say, this is what you need to do? Or was it more just by observing him and picking it up from him, if you like?
He would actually say the word leader to me quite often, that you need to be a leader, not to be a follower, not to be afraid to be myself, to go against the grain, to stand up for what I believe in, to have integrity, never to sacrifice my integrity for anything or anyone. Talk to me about his life and how he grew up, and his struggles, and, that he had to sacrifice a lot to get here and be a leader in his own rights. And he used to talk to me very much about growing up in Newark during the riots and during that time, and how my grandfather came, and from Ellis Island, and was an immigrant here. So a lot of also like knowing the history behind my family. Mm-hmm. And then he would also leave notes everywhere, like hidden notes in the refrigerator, and in a book, and in my book bag, for school. He would always hide notes with famous quotes from leaders from around, like in history. It could be a quote from a Roman emperor like Marcus Aurelius, or from John Adams, So he those type of tactics he always used.
Lovely, a nice story. And you, I think you mentioned when we last spoke, you've got brothers and sisters, right?
I do. I have two wonderful sisters who were always like my rock. You know, my older sister I always looked up to. She's a beautiful mother and an entrepreneur herself with a company called Take It Baby, where she does all these unbelievable fancy, cakes and different customary, cookies, everything baked. And it's her own little solo entrepreneur business. Is doing really well. She's known as the best, around. And then my little sister Monica, super proud of her. She actually is a NLP practitioner and expert in meditation. And she started a company called Operation Muse for young women to understand how they connect their heart to their head, she calls it.
Wow.
So I'm really proud of both of them.
And did they got the same treatment of these notes, hidden in the fridge as well, right?
I like to think that I was the special one getting those notes, Mark. I got to tell you.
Okay. No, it's a lovely story. Okay, so I interrupted. Nee was telling me you're beginning to get interested in the internet. Let's carry on with your kind of creation story, if you don't mind.
Yeah, and then, what happened next was, my father really taught that the road to success was to get a great education. And, I saw him working for a big Fortune, 100 company, Prudential Insurance, and he worked for them for 30 years over his lifetime before, fast forward, I'll get to that, what ended up happening, which is pretty interesting. But he taught me that was the road to success. And I really didn't think that resonated with me. I didn't understand going and working for the big boss and working my way up just yet. I kind of was a little unsure about it, and I was afraid of not being able to get into the best school because he kept pushing to get into Princeton, and I just wasn't the smartest kid. So I ended up getting into a local college, and then my goal was going to be able to transfer. But then first semester, I realized quickly that I looked at school as a really big business. They were telling me what classes to take. I was getting into debt to be able to get to be able to pay for school, and I just saw this opportunity in what was happening with tech and an internet boom. And I said to myself, if there's ever a chance to take a risk on starting my own business, I should do it now while I'm young. And
this was when? This was what, 6 or 7 years ago, was it?
No, this was over 10 years ago.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean, I was probably 18 years old at the time, so it was probably 12 years ago.
Yep. And which business was this? Cause I mean, you're well known, obviously, for for Elite Daily. So let's. Right. So how did you find yourself in the Elite Daily? In that business, if you like. What led up to that that opportunity?
So yeah, it was a long road. It didn't happen, obviously, like right from the gate. I had to grow my passion for marketing and for content creation. And it started with the first company. Believe it or not, the first company, it was totally separate from Elite Daily. What it was, I wanted to learn how to invest into public companies. I wanted to learn what the stock market was and how I learned how to invest. Because I feel like that was where the wealth was really being created, especially like looking at New York City. Was very close to me growing up in New Jersey. And I didn't understand where there was a place for someone like me as a novice to learn online. And there were a couple forums and chat rooms, but none of them had any credibility based upon the members. So I looked at the model of eBay, Amazon at that time, and I said, if I was able to use that kind of rating system for each member and created a forum where traders can now rank each other and discuss the companies that they were investing in and trading, it would be unique in the marketplace, and it would allow me to now get experts onto my site chatting, and the ones that had 4 to 5 star rankings with gold stars, I knew were expert traders and investors. So I can study from them, and that's a way for me to solve my problem as well as building something of value that would be used in the marketplace online. And that was my first idea. And I got 10,000 initial members, and it was doing really, really well. And it led me to then getting a job for a public company that was a nanotechnology company reinventing the battery. And that was like my first kind of entrepreneur type of opportunity where the CEO became a mentor, and he taught me everything about investor relations. He taught me, and I wrote all his press releases. I did video marketing for him. I did all of his marketing for the company. And
great experience, I guess, right?
It was unbelievable priceless experience, and it led me to my first failure.
Yep.
Which was really important for me in my career.
And I think that was when the technology didn't work. I think, right? It failed in some demo. I seem to remember you telling me the story.
Yes. Yep. So everything's going great. A year goes by. I decided to do a first ever demonstration of the nano battery, and classic demo day. They didn't prepare. Crossed the leads incorrectly, and then the thing didn't work, and everything went like hell. And I was with like a tail between my legs, young man, thinking my career was over.
How did that feel at that point? What did you do to drag yourself up off the floor?
Yeah, I thought my career was over, but what happened was interesting. I ended up having a couple CEOs come up to me and say, "Hey, kid, I'm surprised you got me in the room. Here's my card. Call me." And they thought I did a good job to actually get them in the room, and from a marketing standpoint. So I ended up saying to myself, you know what? If I was able to do like what was out of my hands, right? It was management that was supposed to be prepared for the actual demonstration. It was my job just to get people paying attention.
Yeah.
And I did a good job at that. So I said to myself, after I got those cards from some CEOs, I said, if I can do what I did for this company, there's no reason why I can't do it for many other companies that will be prepared. So then that's when I started my own marketing agency to help small companies, and built that up to 10 million in revenue by the time I was 24.
Wow. Okay.
And then so that where Elite Daily kind of came in was then the market crashed in 2008, and everything changed. All my friends were graduating from college, and they now couldn't get a job. My father gets laid off from Prudential. My business takes a really sharp turn, and nobody wants to spend money on marketing because of the market. So I was in a really place where I was like, holy cow, what do I do? And the first thing that I did was I realized that all of my generation was not paying attention to the true economics of the country. They were paying attention to the Kardashians or Jersey Shore, reality TV. So I created a documentary called College Conspiracy to talk about the student loan debt crisis. And that one, it got millions of views. I got asked to be on Bloomberg, Fox, and it grew my passion for making documentaries and for content. And then after I got notoriety for these documentaries, and I was continuing to hedge the market with my investments, I ended up having an intern work for me, and he came to me and said he wants to start a website for the younger generation around business. And I said, you know what, when we studied the marketplace, I said, you know what, right now Wall Street is tainted, and I think we could do something even bigger. I think we could do something that's like the Huffington Post of Generation Y, like a one-stop shop in all verticals, health, dating, business, humor, entertainment, one full newspaper online for Generation Y. And we agreed and went like full force ahead, working on it from my apartment at first, and then built it now to have over 200 employees. And last year, God willing, we were acquired by the Daily Mail for $50 million.
Wow, what a story! What a story! And then I think going forward, subsequent to that, you had a life-changing, an epiphany almost based on the quote from Tony Robbins about.
Correct.
Tell me, how did that? So I mean, you'd made the money, you'd done the exit, you felt probably pretty good about everything you'd built and all the jobs you created. What happened then?
So I first of all, just making that decision for the sale was very, very hard. Everything stopped, and you just don't know, is it the right time to sell or not, right? Especially in an era where you're seeing all these companies in a matter of a short period of time getting sold for billions. You're kind of not sure, you're getting shortchanged or not. And we were a little bit, we were under pressure. A decision had to be made before the end of the year, and we had probably less than 45 days to make a decision. So I was running around the city, meeting advisors, meeting investors, and it came down to this one last board meeting where huge board meeting with some of the biggest venture capitalists. And I said, you know what, I looked at my two other co-founders and said, let's go into the other room and talk. Us three went in the other room, and we said to each other, we started this thing together. Let's make an educated decision together. And we looked at the Facebook algorithms, how they were changing, and we thought that was really going to make a significant impact on our traffic. And we said, you know what, the Daily Mail is going to give us the infrastructure to scale, to provide security for all the jobs that we created. And this was the dream. We also owned a large percentage of the business. And it was like, I think this is the right decision to make. So we did it, and it was emotional after that. It was like, holy cow, I can't believe it. We started this thing in an apartment with it as an idea, and this is a dream for any entrepreneur. And then I was a little bittersweet, not knowing like, oh man, should we have waited, all this stuff. And then it was until I took care of my parents, paid off their mortgage, and then talked to some of my friends growing up. They're like, man, this is so huge. And then I knew that I wanted to tell my story. I've never told my story before. I've only just worked built businesses. And I was like, I really want to share my story for kids like me that grew up that weren't the smartest kids, and that they worked hard, they were passionate, they never give up. They have integrity, they are a leader, they have discipline. They have a lot of the characteristics that I learned and that I gained, and I can help impact this generation. And I ended up getting invited to go see Tony Robbins. I sat front row, and I was so impacted by him and his presence and his quote when he said to me, Gerard, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. That's when I really took a shift and said to myself, now I'm going to focus on really being a leader for this generation. And I started a nonprofit incubator in Newark, where my father originally grew up in basically what we like to call the hood. You know what I mean? Yeah. Where kids are street smart. They don't have that many opportunities. They don't have a good foundation. They don't have the resources like you may have in Silicon Valley or New York. And day in and day out, I'm over there, introducing entrepreneurship, bringing in startups to help make Newark big again. And we created a video series called Leaders Create Leaders. Yeah,
and we'll get to that in a minute because I know that's just been launched. But let's just step it back a little bit. I mean, what is special about? I mean, you represented the voice of Generation Y. I mean, what is special about millennials? And I mean, I'm curious about your decision not wanting to go and follow your father's footsteps into a large organization. Is that a common kind of emotion or decision from millennials? What how would you characterize the millennials' relationship to employment, if you like, Gerard?
So, I don't think that everybody should want to become an entrepreneur. I think everyone should learn about entrepreneurship because it's very important. Even especially when you're in a large organization. I think the reason why so many of us now want to be called an entrepreneur or don't want to go and work for someone. It's not that we don't want to go and work for a large organization. I don't think. It's just that I think for me, particularly like going through what happened in 2008 to 2010 with the financial crisis, everything that we've been told was we felt like we were lied to. And now all of us kind of are graduating, and a lot of us, again, we couldn't get jobs. We couldn't keep jobs, but even just the way that we were advertising world, the way that we were sold things changed. Now there's influencer marketing, right? Now we're seeing how big we can see eye to eye through social media with different influencers, and then and build relationships with brands and become more trusted. And we're seeing a lot of disruption with a lot of new companies that are coming up, in the way that we kind of relate to them and we feel they're more authentic. And I just think that really the financial crisis changed a lot, and that played a big part in the way that we think.
Yeah. So kind of let down, the model doesn't work anymore. So I guess entrepreneurship is about getting in control and hustling again and feeling like you've got, you can create your own future versus depending on other people. Is that part of it?
Yes, 100%. It kind of forced us to think, hey, how can we create, like we did with Elite Daily, how can we now create there's a lot of great publications, but how can we at least create one for our generation, and a lot of a lot of millennials now feel that we have the resources. Now it's different. Now, the times have changed where we can now quickly get a business launched, pretty and have a ton of resources to learn about how to launch a company. The way that we communicate at work with using different technology like Slack and just the way that we communicate to each other. Everything is rapidly changing, and that's why we're seeing so much disruption now with a lot of new companies. But one thing I know for sure that hasn't changed, and that's the grit and the work and the teamwork and the culture and the things that you have to do in order to build a business. It's not easy, that's for sure.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, I'm also curious. I mean, how important is the kind of sense of purpose to millennials? I mean, people say that millennials want to bring their dreams to work, which you'd never have heard in previous generations. My generation, because I'm a bit older than you, or even your dad's generation, wouldn't talk like that. I mean, is this real, or is this is this just a myth, an urban myth, if you like?
No, I think it's very real. I mean, I speak for myself. I mean, I went through it myself. I mean, I could have very easily been selfish after selling a company and said, I'm going to just go and, and not really have this feeling of wanting to give back. And I think a lot of companies are seeing a ton of success. I think it's just very important to us that we have this sense of purpose. We've seen some amazing companies that are integrating that into their business models, like Tom's, for instance. I'm getting ready to interview somebody named Joe Huff in my Leaders Create Leaders series, who created a company called Listen, LSTN, where it's headphones, these really great headphones like Beats, but every purchase they're able to give hearing aids to a kid in need. And I just think it's starting to really play a big role, in the world.
Yeah. And I also know, I mean, you also work with a lot of CEOs of large companies, and you're helping them, I suppose become more relevant for millennials, to attract and retain them. Can you say a little bit more about, what are the concerns of these CEOs for these large mature companies? Tell me about the kind of typical conversations, obviously without mentioning names or businesses.
I mean, they want to, you hit the nail on the head. They want to learn how can they retain millennials to want to be able to work for these larger companies and be happy working for them and want to, and I think with the challenges that, a lot of the millennials today, they still want to, they still want, a lot of things matter to them. Like they still want freedom. They still want to be in a position that challenges them. The culture plays a major role. I mean, if you Elite Daily, if we weren't able to build a certain type of culture within our office and with our employees and team, we would have not have been nearly as successful. So it's like how to build the right culture.
And what did you do? I mean, what specifically did you do with the intern to build this culture? I mean, tell me about that, because that's lots of CEOs I work with, say, I know we've got to change culture. It just takes too long. I mean, what did you do? Because I mean, Elite Daily, you built it pretty quickly, didn't you? So give us some specific examples of what kind of culture you were trying to build, and how did you do that, Gerard?
I mean, everything from as little as every single birthday got celebrated. As crazy as that sounds, we celebrated birthdays. It's as simple as that, to as large as making sure that we did, every year a very large retreat. And then, we had also, speakers come into the office and really motivate everybody. We offered resources for all the employees, for them to be able to have freedom to do, we offered them like different resources and made sure that they felt like they were very much, incentivized to get their work done, but we didn't handcuff them. And we're giving them this little bit of freedom, almost like reverse engineering. We would even say, like, you can take off at any time, you want. There's no rules, but you have to be dedicated. It was almost like they were like, wait a second, I don't even get that. And if somebody abused it, of course, we knew they weren't for us. But by doing it, they also started, what's crazy, they actually started working more. They were afraid to like almost take off or take vacations. And then we created ways of like having hackathons. We did, competitions. We did every Pizza Fridays, and we did, our CTO would give classes to anybody in the company that wanted to learn a little more about coding, maybe, or design. Little things that they felt they were gaining more than just a paycheck. They were gaining knowledge. They were gaining an experience. They were gaining friendships. They were gaining, this feeling that they are so a part of this growth of this company that they want to work for it for forever. And doing that is definitely not easy.
Yeah, sure.
And what we do is typically we go in and we have like these big sessions with everybody, and all the millennials particularly, and ask them, what do you look for? What do you want? And then we'll kind of we'll create something and create a plan with the CEO.
And I mean, obviously, I guess some of this stuff is easy to do. Others, is a lot harder for a large, mature organization. But I mean, how? For
sure. Like even like communication wise, we're building solutions with Elite Daily. We built some custom solutions on the way that information was shared and easily more accessible. Because you can't. That was important for our organization when it's scaled. You sometimes it was hard. How do you source information? You want to go and have to send an email or walk all the way to another department. Like we wanted to make a huge database for people within the company to have information very easily accessible. And coming up with certain solutions like that, also made, people want to work there longer because we made them more efficient.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I can understand. But I mean, when you go into a large company, so I understand the conversations you're having, the CEO and the executive team. What about, and what advice do you have for, people your age who are maybe stuck in the cubicle wondering whether they're in the right place? I mean, you said right at the beginning that developing entrepreneurial skills is important, whether you want to be an entrepreneur or whether you're in a corporate environment. So what kind of, conversations do you have with the folks in the cubicles, mid-20s, early 30s, wondering about whether they're in the right place or whether they should be going off and doing, starting something from scratch?
It's getting down to just getting to understand their why, and really digging down into them as to, hey, look, be honest. What are you looking for in life? And it's okay if it's not this, and this is just one step to maybe what you're looking for in your goals in life. But connecting with them and hearing them about like what they're, at the end of the day, what are their goals in life? How do they foresee their role in that position to help them get to that goal? And making sure, that we are expressing to them that like we want to help them get to their goal, and that we want to be a part of that at the end of the day. And I think that's most important.
Yeah. And then, so let's come in. I mean, you touched on this a few minutes ago, Gerard. I mean, your web video series, Leaders Create Leaders. Can you say a little bit about what led up to that, and what kind of feedback are you getting from it, and how are people using it? What's been the experience after? What did you say? I think 10. You've had 10 episodes so far. By the time this goes out, you'll probably have 15 or so. How's that going?
I mean, it's going fantastic. I'll always have a passion for creating content. It's just something innate in me. I have such an amazing network of such inspiring individuals, both male and female, and it's just it's for me. It's leveraging my platform to be able to share stories and get people, young, aspiring entrepreneurs, all the way up to, founders and CEOs, to just hear from other inspiring stories about how people have had to overcome their own adversities and obstacles, and what lessons we can take from their story that have gotten them to the success that they have. And we have fun with it. We do day in the life with each person. And it's been pretty cool.
Wonderful. And I mean, where do you think this is going to take you? I mean, what's the long-term plan for this series? You're obviously enjoying it. It's getting a lot of resonance in the community. People are, giving you lots of feedback, and it's right up your street in terms of it's what you do really well, Gerard. I mean, where could this go, do you think?
It's a great question. For me, I'm not worried about it so much. I'm more just worried about creating quality content that will resonate with an audience, and continuing to do that and do it well. And when you do that, it's pretty cool how you don't even have to worry about what opportunities will come. They kind of manifest on their own. It's already starting to happen with some of the individuals that have been on the show, like Lewis Howes, Gary Vaynerchuk, a growth hacking engineer recently, and we're now doing a little course and offering a growth hacking course to individuals. So it's when you do quality, good work and put out good quality content, it'll grow. And eventually, I would love to do a tour and a big live event.
Yep.
That would be, if I were to guess, I would say I would love to be able to have it be built to eventually having, a great live event, doing some kind of tour.
Lovely. And I guess some of the content is relevant, to feed back into the corporate world for some of these organizations who are struggling with figuring out how to attract and retain millennials and how to deal with all this disruption you talked about earlier, right?
Some episodes, are not, they're like telling unconventional stories of just individual solo entrepreneurs, but it's still like, for instance, the last one was about content, how one person was creating guerrilla style content to build his brand. So I guess there definitely are nuggets. And then we're also going to have episodes, an episode that's specifically around this topic of millennial retention and being a CEO in a large organization. So I look forward to that episode coming out soon.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. So let's begin to wrap this up, Gerard. I mean, this has been fantastic. I'm glad we've finally managed to talk. So I sent a few questions to you in advance. The first one is, what are your morning rituals?
Morning rituals would be meditation in the shower. I like to take my time in the shower, no phone, really zone out, think about things, try to think clearly. A good breakfast, juice is important to me. Walking my dog Gigi is important to me in the morning. Stretching and just getting ready for the day, and that's like a typical early morning for me.
Great. Second question. This is somewhat harder, I guess. Is what have you changed your mind about recently?
Well, I gotta say, I don't know. From a business standpoint, both personal or business.
Yeah, exactly. And anything that, so you might have had a belief, or you might have had a distinction, or just a way of looking at the world, which, you might have inherited, or it was how everyone looked at the world, and you just sort of inherited it. And then one day you woke up and thought, you know what, it's actually rather different. Is there anything like that that's, what you've touched on one already, which is this idea of success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure, which I guess was something that forced you to change your mind. But just wondered if there's anything else, profound that's really shaken your world recently.
I mean, really just opening up the incubator in Newark. Over the first couple of months, I had some people that were really doubters. Mm-hmm. And I got to a point where I almost doubted it myself. I said, oh my gosh, no, this is a big job. It's like a lot of the individuals don't even know entrepreneurship, and how can I get startups to want to come to Newark and work from Newark? And it was like really tough. And then and then one day I had a young man who came by, and I was happened to be outside on a phone call, and he said, Gerard, what is this place? I said, well, this is Founders. And it's, by the way, for everyone listening, it's FOWNDERS.com with the word own in the middle to teach ownership. Yeah. And I said, this is Founders. And I said, why don't you come in and learn about what we're building and learn about entrepreneurship? And he's like, all right, let me come to go in. He came in, and after 30 seconds comes outside and goes, no, this isn't for me, man. I don't belong here, he said. And he said, I got to go. And I said to him, what do you mean you don't belong here? I said, I built this place for kids like you so that you can learn how to take, your struggles in life, get off the streets and start channeling your energy in a positive way with like-minded, the people who also want to get on the right path. And this was built for you. And I said, get back in there, and if you go through life with the fear that you think you don't belong, you'll never get out of these streets. But if you actually lean into that fear and feel that you belong and put yourself in uncomfortable situations with people, like this, in situations like this, if you're not the smartest person in the room, that's when you're actually going to really grow. And he looked at me, and I kid you not, I seen this kid's mindset change instantly. He went in there, he started talking to some of the individuals in there, and by the time he went to leave that day, he stood up, he shook my hand, he said, "Gerard, you just changed my life. I want to thank you so much, and I promise you that I'm going to be dedicated, and you'll start to see me show up here every single day." And I've seen him show up, this young man named Shaq, like Shaquille O'Neal, show up every day. And once that one person, I've seen him change his mindset, I said to myself, I don't care what people say, even if it's one kid at a time, I'm going to continue with this Founders.
Lovely, lovely. Nice story. Final question: What advice do you have for a millennial, a young millennial, maybe about to leave college now, as they're looking at they're stepping out into the big wide world? What advice would you have to them?
Yeah, I would tell them, don't procrastinate. Just do it. This is your time to actually take a risk in your life. This is the time to, this isn't your time to go and party or take your time. Put yourself in uncomfortable situations. Put yourself in a situation where you're truly going to be able to learn, and just do it. Don't give up. Don't procrastinate. Don't overanalyze things. Just actually go out in life and get out there and make shit happen. Great
stuff. So where can folks get in touch with you, Gerard?
You can follow me on Twitter at I am Gerard Adams. Instagram is just my name, Gerard Adams. My newsletter, if you could, is at gerardadams.com. If anyone wants to see this series, the video series, it's Gerard Adams TV on both Facebook and YouTube. And again, Founders is, if anyone would like to apply to Founders, has a startup, has an idea, or wants to learn more about entrepreneurship, they very much can, and that's at www.founders.com.
Great. And we'll put all that in the show notes. So it's been great to talk to you, Gerard. I mean, a real pleasure having you on the show. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to meet face to face. We're a few thousand miles apart, but I'm sure that's not impossible. Wish you all the luck. I'm sure our audience enjoyed it as much as I did. And thanks very much for your time today.
Thank you. Look forward to meeting you as well, Mark. And I'll see you soon when I get to travel over to Europe. And anyone that visits New York City or New Jersey or the East Coast, you have a friend here, feel free to just get in touch, and I'd be more than happy to show you around.
Wonderful. That's very kind of you. Thanks very much, Gerard.
Bye-bye.
So I love Gerard's story of how he was encouraged by his father to develop his leadership mindset by leaving lots of quotes from famous people hidden around his house for his son to discover. His rags to riches story is compelling, but even more so is a decision that he made after his $50 million exit to focus on helping others less fortunate than him to develop their leadership and entrepreneurial skills. Gerard's insights into millennials and what they want and need from a career is hugely relevant for leaders and managers in the corporate world. Next week, I'm joined by Gillian Zoe Segal, who has an equally fascinating story to tell about how she managed to interview some of the most famous and inaccessible leaders in the world. Think Warren Buffett, Craig Venter, Frank Gehry, Michael Bloomberg. Her book, Getting There, A Book of Mentors, is full of lessons for us all, whether we're pitching a business or an idea, trying to get a podcast interview, or struggling to get the results we are looking for in our businesses and in our lives. Now, of course, you've now got some knowledge, but knowledge isn't power, it's only potential power, and it's all about execution from here on in, taking some action towards your goal. So I urge you to start applying some of the concepts straight away. So go ahead and download the transcript of this interview, which is www.innovationecosystem.com/1919. And there you can review our conversation, highlight sections of interest, scribble in the margins, and share it with your team and colleagues. And in fact, we're hearing more and more examples of our listeners doing that to create the right conversations in their organizations and businesses. And if you prefer the pictures, you can look at the visuals we've made for this episode and for the preceding episodes in this series. Now, if you like this episode, please go to iTunes and write a review. These shows do take time and energy to make, and we really would like to hear from you and to get our work out into the innovation ecosystem for executives and entrepreneurs to benefit from. Thanks again for listening, and have a great week.